What happens when a psycho family obsessed with pregnant women kidnaps a happy couple? They kill the husband and forcibly deliver the baby. They brutally pump the breast milk out of the exhausted woman and torture her every day. Will she be able to escape from this hell? Watch the full video to find out. The movie opens with a couple, Rachel and her husband Matt, driving to a destination. Rachel is pregnant, and their journey so far is very smooth. Just then, they find that the road ahead is closed.
What's going on here?
Don't know.
Matt follows the detour signs and goes in the other direction, but he does not focus on driving and crashes into a fallen tree in the middle of the road. Their car gets damaged, leaving them stranded on the outskirts of a forest, and no one is living in this area. Matt tries to call for a tow truck, but his phone gets no signal.
Anything?
No.
Fortunately, Matt spots a farm about half a mile away, and they decide to go there. While walking towards the farm, they find a sign saying stay out of the private property, but they have nowhere to go, so they continue walking and ignore the sign. When they finally reach the farm, a man approaches them in a car. The man is Bobby, who scolds them for trespassing into his property. Matt tries to explain their situation, but the man doesn't give a shit and tells them to leave his property. However, when Bobby is told that Rachel is heavily pregnant and that the baby will be a boy, his attitude suddenly changes, and he warmly welcomes them. The man then informs his wife that they have a couple of visitors. At first, she gets furious at him for letting them in, but when Bobby mentions Rachel is pregnant with a boy, Agnes gets excited and happily allows him to bring them home. Matt and Rachel explain that they just want to borrow a phone and don't want to bother him. But Bobby is very excited to take them home. He informs them that the storm has destroyed the telephone line and they're waiting for a technician to fix it. They finally accept his invitation and get inside the car.
My wife's gonna be over the moon to see you.
On the way, Rachel sees a girl in a black dress staring at her. When they arrive at Bobby's house, his wife Agnes and her two sons, Luke and David, warmly welcome them. The sons take their bags while Agnes shows them the room, where they'll spend the night.
We'll find your phone tomorrow, don't you worry.
Matt and Rachel cannot believe such hospitality when they only wanted to borrow a phone. However, they don't realize that Agnes is listening to them from outside the room. Just then, Rachel gets jump scared by the same creepy girl she had seen earlier now standing outside the window. But when Matt checks outside, no one is standing there. Later, Matt and Rachel join Agnes and her family for dinner.
Superstars. David, manners.
During dinner, Rachel notices a photo of Agnes, Bobby, and the same creepy girl. She curiously asks Agnes about the girl, and Agnes explains that the girl is her youngest child named Faith, who will not be joining them for dinner today. Agnes reveals that she adopted Faith, Luke, and David because she is not blessed with any children. She believes God had a better plan for her family. While eating, Matt and Rachel are surprised to see Bobby suddenly getting angry at his son. After dinner, they return to their room, and Rachel starts feeling suspicious about the family. This is because they have not seen Faith yet, and the family is also behaving strangely. Rachel tells Matt they should leave this house in the morning, but then they realize someone is listening to their conversation from outside the door. But when Matt checks outside, no one's there. Matt notices Rachel is tired and takes her to sleep. The next morning, Rachel wakes up to the sound of someone crying. She looks around and sees that Matt is gone. She then finds Faith crying over her two dead parents. Faith approaches Rachel and reveals her real name, but it turns out to be just a nightmare.
Ellie Adams.
What? What is it?
We need to get out of here.
Matt wakes up and she tells him that Faith's real name is Ellie Adams, whose entire family has gone missing, and she's been on the news for months. Rachel thinks that Bobby's family is somehow involved in the deaths of Ellie's parents and tells him to leave immediately. They quietly walk downstairs, but when they try to open the door, they find that the door is locked. Matt gets the key from the box, but it falls to the ground, and then Bobby shows up from behind. Matt tells him they're leaving and will continue their journey on foot, but Bobby just stares at them silently. When they go outside, they find Luke and David holding a shotgun in hand. Just then, David strikes Matt from behind while Bobby knocks down Rachel with a single punch. Rachel wakes up and realizes that her hands have been chained. She then asks about Matt, but Agnes replies that he is in a much better place now. Meanwhile, Luke and David are digging a grave for Matt. They strip off all his clothes, leaving him completely naked. As Luke is about to kill the unconscious Matt, David advises him to bury Matt alive instead. Luke then tosses Matt's cigarettes and lighter into the coffin, saying he will need them when he wakes up. On the other hand, Rachel is in labor, and with the help of Agnes, she gives birth to a baby. But to Agnes's disappointment, it's not a boy. Agnes takes the baby outside, leaving the exhausted Rachel behind. Rachel desperately tries to free her hands from the zip ties. She finally frees herself and quickly grabs the hanging cross, pretending everything is normal. When Agnes shows up to check on her, Rachel is fed up of her bullshit and hits Agnes. Just then, everyone shows up and quickly overpowers Rachel. This time, Rachel's wrists and ankles are both restrained with zip ties.
You ungrateful whore.
Agnes then confesses that she killed Ellie's parents in the name of God, claiming she saved her adopted children from the clutches of Satan. She believes that a sinful culture has corrupted Rachel and other parents. Rachel is then gagged and taken to a hay shed. Agnes then also forcefully pumps Rachel's breast milk. Meanwhile, Matt regains consciousness in the coffin and uses his lighter as a light source. He soon realizes he's been buried alive in a coffin. Matt desperately tries to break through the sides of the coffin to escape. After some time, he finally manages to dig his way out, but he is still naked. Matt wanders through the forest, shouting for help, but no one's there. Lost and confused, he eventually stumbles upon a waterfall, where he cleans himself and finds a cloth to cover himself. Rachel is still chained up and tries to free herself again, but falls asleep due to exhaustion. She wakes up and finds that someone has left food and drink for her. It's actually Ellie Adams. Rachel begs Ellie to help her find something to free herself, but Ellie just simply walks away. The scene shifts to Matt, who is trying his best to find the highway. He finally comes across two men who are camping. Matt asks them for help and explains what has happened to him and his wife. But when they see Matt's clothes, they think he is drunk and hallucinating. Left with no choice, Matt fights the men, takes their clothes, and offers them a deal. They show him the way to the highway, and he gives them a knife to free themselves. Meanwhile, Luke and David visit Agnes in the baby's room. They know Agnes wanted a boy and offer her that one of them can impregnate Rachel in order to get a boy for Agnes, and this might be what God has planned for them. However, Agnes gets furious and tells them to leave the room. Luke and David have never experienced such a thing and finally decide to see Rachel in the hay shed. Just then, Matt has also arrived at the house, and Ellie secretly helps him find Rachel. Meanwhile, Luke and David force themselves on Rachel, but Matt shows up just in time and beats the gentleman to death with a pipe. Relieved to see Matt alive, Rachel informs him that the baby is born, and it's a girl. Hearing this, Matt gets overwhelmed and uses his pipe to break Rachel's chains. However, Agnes hears the commotion and sends Bobby to investigate. Ellie distracts Agnes, buying Rachel and Matt some time to escape. When they step out of the hay shed, they find Bobby waiting outside with a shotgun. Matt shields Rachel and takes the hit. Bobby then knocks Rachel out with his shotgun. When Rachel regains consciousness, she finds herself chained up once again in the same place. This time, Ellie is also chained with her. Ellie tries to free Rachel from the chains. Meanwhile, Bobby finds Agnes applying makeup to the bodies of Luke and David, whom she believes are still alive. Bobby embraces her and gently tells Agnes it's time to let them go. They bury Luke and David in a meadow where there are 3 tomb crosses. After mourning, Bobby suggests they go home, but Agnes can't let them go and stays behind. Ellie and Rachel finally manage to break the bricks connected to their chains. They then cut off their chains and freed themselves. They go to Bobby and Agnes's house to take Rachel's baby. Rachel is overjoyed to see her newborn girl, but shortly after, Bobby returns home. Rachel and Ellie hide in a closet. Bobby checks on the baby and leaves the room with the breast pump. He realizes that Rachel is no longer in the hay shed. He immediately grabs his gun and rushes back to the house. This time, Rachel decides not to hide and asks Bobby to let her breastfeed her baby directly. Bobby agrees and puts down his gun, and she reveals that she was hiding a knife and instantly stabs Bobby to death. Rachel quickly grabs Bobby's cell phone and calls the police.
We need help urgently. We've been kidnapped.
Just then, Agnes arrives home and grows suspicious when she notices that the key to the hay shed is still in the lock. She takes a gun and waits for Rachel outside.
She has a gun.
After waiting for a while, Agnes gets in the tractor and drives somewhere. Rachel and Ellie carefully leave the house with Bobby's shotgun, but when they enter the car, the keys are missing. Agnes is watching them from a distance and approaches them with a shotgun in her hand. This forces Rachel to step out of the car, leaving Ellie and the baby behind. Both of them engage in a gunfight, missing most of the shots. Despite being shot in the arm and leg, Rachel somehow fights to keep Agnes from taking her baby. Eventually, Rachel overpowers Agnes by repeatedly slamming her head into the ground. Rachel and Ellie leave the house just as the police and an ambulance arrive. The police and doctor try to ask them about what happened to them. Just then, Agnes, who is still alive, appears from behind the ambulance and tries to shoot Rachel. Luckily, the police spot her in time and instantly shoot her dead. The police officer asks her about Ellie Adams, whom she had mentioned on the phone. At that moment, Rachel realizes that Ellie has disappeared. It turns out that Ellie Adams is dead and Rachel was just hallucinating all the time. In fact, it was Rachel who made all of the efforts to escape by herself. Ellie's ghost was actually helping Rachel escape from the house. It is then revealed that one of the 3 crosses shown earlier was of Ellie Adams, also known as Faith Fairbairn. Finally, Rachel and her baby are taken to a nearby hospital in the ambulance, and the movie ends. Subscribe to watch more movie recaps like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Goodbye.